Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? We have a new guest on tonight. His name's John, and I'll let him introduce himself here. Let me go ahead and bring John in here. And me and John have been talking a lot lately. He's got some interesting experiences that he'd like to share with everybody. And yeah, go ahead, John. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. Well, I'm a electrician by trade. I'm a union guy in the IBEW. From the state of Vermont. I've worked in Canada, in the oil fields in Alberta, and I spent about close to 6 years in mostly Southern California. Got two daughters, and yeah, back in my home state, and just pushing through this crazy time like everyone else.
How's I never actually asked you about this. How's work been with the pandemic and everything?
Yeah, it's crazy busy right now. I got my master's electrician's license, so I'm working for myself currently. But yeah, the trades are booming out here right now. Cost of everything's gone way up. Cost of wire.
Anything, housing, lumber. Yeah, you name it.
You can't find certain breakers. It's the sign of the times. It's crazy.
Yeah, my neighbor is actually an electrician. He's got his own business as well, and yeah, me and him talk about it a lot because I used to do remodeling on the Lakeshore Drive area of Chicago. So you're talking $2 million plus houses that are all on Lake Michigan.
Oh wow!
They got some pretty big houses out there. It's insane some of the money that people spend on some of that stuff. And yeah, the trades that they'll hire to be out there. I mean, you have electricians that'll be working in a place for a month. Like the houses are just so big, especially from running all the conduit from and they're all new builds. So it's running the conduit in the beginning, deciding what routes you want to do. It's quite the setup.
Nice, very nice.
But besides our normal lives, let's talk a little bit about some of the interesting experiences you've had.
Sure. Where should I start? I mean, do we just want to talk about?
I can pull up some of the references you gave me, or we can talk about some of the occurrences that happened once you kind of moved to where you are now. You said you had a little bit more going on.
Yes. So this, I was working on a side job, in Southern California about 5 years ago in the city of Bakersfield. And, I was behind a used car lot, and that was the first, wild experience as far as what would be referred to as by most people as UFO, UAP, something you've never seen before in the sky that is, as far as we know, unidentifiable. I was repairing a photo eye behind a used car lot, and I had the inclination to look up. I was by myself on a ladder. And once again, how we spoke about earlier, Jacob, it's tough without anything in the backdrop to get a reference for the size or distance. So this is just a guess. Really, it's a guess. I'm going to say somewhere plus or minus 1,000 feet was a full-on cube just spinning on its axis slowly. And you could see every angle as the sunlight was hitting on it. I mean, it was undeniable. It was cubic. Sorry about that. I was awestruck when that happened, and I jimmied down the ladder to see if anyone was around that could see this with me. And that's when a car accident happened simultaneously across the street. And so there was a good crowd of people, but it's a good thing I didn't make it across the road, because they would have looked at me like I was nuts. They would not have wanted some random guy to point and shoot into the sky and say, "Take a look at this." They were a little preoccupied. So that was the first pretty wild experience I had out west.
When I always thought it was interesting because you were seeing the cube type shapes. Not a lot of people describe that. So I always thought that was something you were really seeing, because you weren't just like, oh, it's the standard, circular, blah, blah, blah. You're like, well, no, this is something different that I'm seeing compared to most people, because most people don't describe it like that. So it is interesting that you were able to make out that detail as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I could tell you, Jacob, that there's some pretty wild things that can actually happen this week. I can jump into this one if you remind me later. But with my ex-wife, it scared her so bad she went back inside the house. But we literally saw all kinds of things can happen. This is going to sound, well, it just is what it is. A 747 flying above us, completely silent, estimated, I don't know, 700 feet low, in a place with like very little air traffic at nighttime, literally split in two from one single point, and went pitch perfect away from each other like that. So it started off at one point and then just separated in midair. And so all kinds of illusions or symbols can be shown to you through these experiences. So if someone told me they saw a flying school bus morph into a cigar-shaped UAP, I would not be surprised. Hey.
Oh, keep going. Didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. Your story's awesome.
Oh, hey. Thank you. Good to see you. So with that, I've seen helicopters do some pretty amazing things that defy logic and what a pilot would say would be possible. And that goes hand in hand, I think, with, if you read a lot of testimony, like around nuclear power plants and around military bases, when nuclear missiles have actually been taken offline and then put back online, or just a regular old sighting, all of a sudden someone will say, oh, there's a black helicopter. I've had experiences with these that's instantaneously there. But after seeing what happened to the 747, it opened my eyes up to take another look at that and be like, wait a minute, that's not some black, Scooby-Doo land of the military showing up in a black helicopter. That's either cloaked, or that is a disguise, or that's a projection. It's one of the two. They're not instantaneously just showing up, some spooky, secret attachment of the military in a heartbeat to these locations, especially over their own military installations. There'll be guys that have tested. I've read their testimony where half of the base. Yeah.
Hey, do you think those crafts are possibly multidimensional, the way they can just appear in certain spots?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm gonna. This is all. Everything I say is some things I have a firm belief in, like a loving creator, and belief in the angelic. But when it comes to the nuts and bolts types things with this, it's hypotheses. It's things that I've tried to. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's the conclusion you came to with your experiences.
Yeah. That's it.
You're trying to describe what you actually saw for real. Your description of it, you're trying to describe what you actually saw for real, which is science. We don't know how to explain the things that we see, so we come up with ideas and we test them to find out how real they are, how repeatable they are, and that sort of thing. Why? Because we're always trying to understand that which we see. And you saw these things, and we're trying to understand them. That's the whole thing. We don't. It doesn't go along with our logic. It doesn't matter. Our logic can actually, most probably, is flawed. We got to find out what it is that's going on. Later on, nuts and bolts come into play. For example, you got gravity wells, and then you mentioned cloaking devices and everything else, and we got holograms. Maybe it's not even fucking real. Maybe it's drones. We don't know. We want to find out, but the only way to find out is actually noticing and evidencing what's real. And that's why your testimony, your story, and your visualization and all that is so important, because yes, it's a hypothesis, but it's information and data that helps either strengthen or lead to other hypotheses that could explain that as well. The more data, the more information we have, the better the image always ends up being of what it is. It's like pixels.
And you're so right. And I guess I'll leave with a one line my late father used to always say to me, which is just, man, was he ever right? Reality is a bigger trip than any drug you could ever take, and that's just the truth to the matter. And that's very much what it's been like for the past few years. So there was started off with the cube, and then and then the next visual sighting was coinciding with the period of time where I there was a weird thing going on with time. There was just a ton of weird things happening during this time frame, and it was.
Were there actually any weird things with time itself?
Oh, for sure. I actually went back in time by about 15 seconds, or no, maybe 10 seconds at one point, which I can get to. And that all of this was like shock treatment for your soul. I mean, it's just like, I got to be honest with you guys, though. I was like living, self-will run riot. I was living like a real jerk in many ways. And on the same token, I was trying to be a good dad and protect my family. But, there's things that, as you guys know, that are way bigger and badder than we are. And I was trying to take all this on, and it wasn't happening.
It usually doesn't, but it's good that you recognize it, because that's the first step. I mean, knowing what you're up against allows you to get the defenses and weapons and things that you need to guarantee your own safety, basically. Now, remember that what we're battling isn't necessarily physical. So your weapons and your defenses can't be physical as well, because that's meaningless in those aspects. I mean, if things can materialize out of nowhere, what kind of a physical defense are you going to have against that? You can set up a perimeter of sensors and everything else, but if they can actually make a portal and go directly to where they need to go, that's a whole nother level.
If they can pass through a solid, projectile weapons are not going to do it.
No, the sound beams that they're starting to use.
John, I got this. I got one of these pictures pulled up here for you. It's the one. It's the cross-shaped one.
Sure. Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that shot. So typically what will happen is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the space shuttle fly by at night. It'll be, if you get a good showing of the space shuttle or not just the space shuttle, the International Space Station is what I'm getting at. A lot of these things will appear, if they're coming by slowly, as a super, super bright star. Like so you can't really gauge with your eyes how close or how far away it is, because there's nothing there's no backdrop to it. But this was one of those times, and I pull up apps to cross check to make sure it's not the International Space Station going by. The best time to go sky watching is 2.5 hours after sundown and before sunset, so the angle of the sun doesn't create any iridium flares or anything, because there's so much stuff up there. But typically what will happen is some really cool ones will be when they, like the cross that you were showing, that was right over my house in my backyard, and just super slow, way slower than a satellite, and taking pictures of it. That's what they left on one of my pictures, was the cross. So I mean, if you keep the message simple, you got to think, well, you know, that's really not that's a pretty friendly gesture, if you ask me, to leave a cross on your phone, you know. Or
maybe that's what they want you to think. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what
some people don't have very good references to a burning cross in front of your yard.
This is true, but this was not a burning cross. So I hear where you're going to that, but when you're sky watching, when this is happening, what happens is you will have a thought or an emotion, especially if you're in prayer or meditation, or you're listening to music simultaneously while praying or meditating. And like I told you guys previously, in 2004, while saying the rosary, I'm not Catholic, but a priest showed me how to say the rosary. I got into it, and I had the spontaneous Kundalini awakening. So when I'm out there sky watching, all these things are happening simultaneously, and they will show up in a heightened state of emotion, whether that's a loving thought coinciding with what with you, and that's when they appear, right? So, and this happens over and over and over and over again. Or if you're depressed and you're out there and you're feeling a little low, and you hit that low spot, that's when they show up. So most of what I think I've experienced classically would be considered, and once again, this is my opinion, but this is going off of what I've been shown and what
leave that up, Jake. Hold on, leave that up.
Is angelic in nature.
I want to know if this was a sequence. This is just one shot that you took, or whether it was a sequence of shots over time lapse. What was the formation? In other words, in what sequence did it actually create this? Because it almost looks three-dimensional.
Yeah,
it's an awesome image. I just want to know more about.
It was, I think, about 5 or 6 shots that I pressed on an iPhone. Maybe I think it was an 8, which was like for some reason I bought an 11, but I'm not that savvy with it. But I really like the 8. It took great pictures, man. And all the other ones, the other 5 or 6, was just the bottom. So that's what was flying by, the brighter point, which was super bright. And
so that was the trail then. The cross type part was the trail, and then the lighter part on the end, that was like
not
the object.
Not even the trail. That was above it. So in the frame, this is moving like this, and the rest of the cross is completely above it. There was no. Oh. It's not inverted or anything.
The cross was moving along with it. The whole thing was moving.
Yeah, that's how it was left on my phone. Only
that's
this.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
And I don't know, Jacob, if you saw that video that I sent you, all those bright lights, all those colors of lights that came shooting down. That was a picture of something that reminded me of an angel flying by, and that's what they left on my phone. That too, which I absolutely love that picture.
I'll pull it up for you real quick. Let's see here.
Change venues, John. Congrats.
Yeah, we're actually getting a little bit better at it. Take a little bit of navigating, but we're getting there.
No, I'm talking about he doesn't have those lights along the ceiling and the.
Oh, in my bedroom.
The bedroom change.
The pink backdrop. Hey man, whatever.
Real men wear pink.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Oh gosh.
You go with that.
But I believe it's this one here. If we can get her up and playing.
Patience is a virtue, they say.
Let's see. What was that?
Patience is a virtue, they say.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Part of Stoicism as well, right?
So where was this video? Yeah, it is. So where was this video shot, John?
I'm not sure which video this is. I think that may be one with a bunch of still shots from encounters, and that one may or may not include some live video. That cross on the front was in Riverside, California, on top of a mountain. They have a huge cross in it. It's like, I don't know, maybe 100 feet by 70 feet. But I absolutely love that shot.
Sorry, hold on. I gotta readjust it. It was stuck on your page. But no, the video that you shared me, where was that one where was that taken from?
Okay. If I'm thinking the one was right before Easter, and that was right on the shore of Lake Champlain, and that was one of the encounters where that was one of my top.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's what they left on my phone. All those wild streaks of light.
Because they're faster than your shutter speed.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit, man.
Light speed has a tendency of doing that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I like the music, but YouTube might not.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if he owns the rights to it. I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Or if it's older, they said that if it's more than like 50 years old, you can use it. So I don't know.
Yes,
anything was made before I was born, then works.
So this shot right here, this is what is called in typical Skywatch CE5 HEISS human initiated contacts. Those three still frames, that is what people would call either a flash bulb or a power up. So they'll come out, and that's one that was going by, but they'll come out, those three still shots out of you'll be zenning in on a star. They'll come by, and then you'll see them they'll start from nothing and then light up the sky and then power back down.
It clicked right onto your music. Sorry about that. I think your music clicked back on the page. You got some good tunes on there.
Yeah,
good
Vibes.
No, that's an actual phrase. It would
So-
be awesome to just live by. Just make it by love. You said it was what, a consciousness induced or apparition? They show up because you got that doc out in God knows where over next to California. It's also got his entire group that's like meditating, and all of a sudden they willfully call on these things to appear. I don't know if that's one of the things that you're referring to or not.
Similar, I guess. I mean, well, yes, it is so similar, but I don't know who's calling who here. You know, it may be something that that's already part of our reality. These different forms of intelligences, and like I said, I've never. I have friends that have met, that have actually had super close encounters, like blow my experiences out of the water. But the ones that I trust the most even refer to it as angelic in nature. That's just the best frame of mind that they can put it on. So who's calling who? I don't know. Maybe it's mutual. You know, I don't really like to use the word, like some people refer to themselves as, oh, they're going to go summon a UFO and all this stuff. It's like
Summoning a demon.
Yeah. No, it's more like saying hello and
That's a whole other story. Now, see what you were talking about. They just send you a pulse and let you know they're there.
Yeah. Yeah. So this picture, this was in Riverside, California, and this mathematical formula came through my mind. I haven't had, some people get these that I've spoken to way more.
Jake, you're gonna have to send that one to me.
Way more than
I will. I'll send you a copy.
These types of things, heavy duty. That has not been my experience. This is the one and only clear as day mathematical formula I have seen. But it was like watching a movie screen going across in your mind. It actually this will maybe crack you guys up, but so I was shown Google Maps in my mind, and it showed a pin in Riverside, California, where I was, and then it floated over through my mind. I'm watching the needle drop, and it dropped in a specific zone in southeastern California, and then the words Fort Magic come across, and then this formula goes across my view in my mind's eye. So the next day, and I'm an electrician. I'm average with math. I got enough to be able to safely do my job, but this is gibberish to me. Other than the very next day, I'm watching I'm researching time travel and dimensions, and this
is physics here.
Right, this is physics, and this formula came up. Okay, and to the T, I knew that was what I was shown. So,
and it's a formula for what?
All I can tell you is it has to do with time travel, and dimensions. I took a screenshot of it. That's all I did. 2 weeks later, I received this Gmail alert from Google Maps saying, "Thank you for your contribution, over 5,000 likes." That's all I can really tell you about that. I have no idea how that even occurred into Google Maps.
Somebody shared your photo.
Someone shared it. Yeah. But I didn't, that's not, that's someone else's formula, but it's the same exact one that I saw cross my mind. And interestingly
I just
enough,
downloaded it.
Here's a correlation though. The latitude and longitude I was shown was, if not in Joshua Tree National Park, very close to it. And at the time, it happened so fast. I specifically was shown the latitude and the longitude, but it you know, I don't have a photographic memory other than those 3 days, I suppose. But this is what I'm getting at. I did go to Joshua Tree about a year later. I went into the desert. I went hiking. I hiked up a mesa to go sky watching by myself, and I went off the path and up some cliffs, and I stayed there until about midnight. And around 11:30 at night, there's absolutely zero cell phone reception. My cell phone YouTube comes on, and Amazing Grace starts playing in Cherokee Indian, and then it cut out. So, but it was like pretty much pinpointed at the same destination that they showed me when I was shown that formula. So this is where it's all like, you know, I think anything that I've been in contact with has much like much of humanity. I wish it was more that way, but is very you know, I think they come from the same place we do. You know, we're all just on this momentary trip from the eternal, and maybe some of this is coming from the eternal, and that's where the angelic comes into play. You know, and I think certainly if we're going to talk nuts and bolts, anything out there in this great universe, you know, that's in our dimension or even other dimensions that survive, they must be really in tune with you know, what they consider God, or you know, some people call source or creator, in order to survive and not blow themselves up. You know,
have we learned anything in the last 1,000 years? I mean, after the Roman Empire, have we learned something? Have we progressed beyond the Roman Empire in 1,000 years? And whenever I studied SETI, you know, you've got potential civilizations whose stars are billions of years older than ours, which means that they had the potential to initiate their life cycle billions of years before us. So if we made this kind of progress in 1,000 years, multiply that by a couple thousand. And then you start figuring out what they might have already figured out, which is why they're able to play with space-time and be here visiting us going, hey, dumbass, you got something to show you.
Right. Yeah, there's like I said, you know, a lot of it, this is just all hypotheses, but what I do know, for hands down, what I do know is a good portion of it was angelic, and that goes back to where I was directly. I think I mentioned this to you guys before, and I can get into that if you want me to. The night that I saw the angelic being, and I was directly shown that was the same part of the same. I don't even like the word phenomena. The same group as these UFOs that I saw, those 12 that were hovering above me that slowly went away. They're
all part of the same message.
It was the same. It was the same, hands down. It was. I was shown that it was the same thing. So I think, you know, much like on the low end, we have this is from my personal experience. We have the archonic, the demonic at the very low. You know, there's some really evil, nasty stuff, and I know a lot of people like to preach love and light, which is awesome, and I'm so down for that. But I've experienced that heebie-jeebie bad stuff. It almost took me out. Like, I know how real it is. And on the high end, you know, I think is the angelic, these beings that can, maybe possibly one way to look at it is they slip in and out of the eternal, and they show up in people's lives, and they're all around, you know, all of us at different times, helping us, you know.
All times.
And then Yeah, and then in between that zone is all these other potentials, and some of what I've been seeing and witnessing may fall into that. But at least I know at the very high end is angelic, and at the very low end, boots on ground stuff that I've dealt with has been in the demonic archonic. And who's to say other civilizations, if that are out there, right? Who's to say they're not dealing with the same thing? They've got from the high end, coming from the eternal, the angelic, and the same type of same types of things that we deal with. If they're anything
they already
like
dealt with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a valuation to this or not. Oh, that's a cool shot. That's just I'm surprised that sent. That was hiking in Catalina Island. Along this cliff right here along that cliff that you just showed in broad daylight. A raven flew up next to me, and it's hovering like this. So I'm up on the cliff walking, and the raven comes up next to me. It's only like 15 feet away, and it does what I guess ravens could do this, but I didn't know that. With its wings, it just didn't look natural. Its wings completely out the entire time. It does one complete turn, and it's just coasting, and it goes like another 10 feet, 2, then it goes another 10 feet, and then 3. It just looked impossible what it did, and magical. It was really wild. But that whole night.
What about that other photo we were just looking at? You were telling me a little bit.
That other photo was hovering underneath the surface of the ocean, super bright. Once again, that is off like a Nokia. That is a really cheap. That was like some Android phone. It's all I had with me on this trip, and that looking at the picture from here, it doesn't do it any kind of justice. But I'm glad that I do have that photo. So it was there for about 10 seconds, maybe 13, 14, and then it zipped away, and you could almost see a tracer in the water. And that was off of Catalina.
Oh, that place is famous for those, especially underwater.
Yeah.
Catalina Island. I mean, that's where the Tic Tac's at.
Yeah.
That's where the Tic Tac sighting was, off of Catalina Island.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. There's a lot of sightings. I read this one story. I think I read it from Preston Dennett. He's a really big researcher. But anyway, a Boy Scout troop was on the island, and I'd hiked the island's super cool. You got Avalon, and then what's on the other end of the island. But in between, it's a big like nature conservatory. There's nothing in the mainland. It's just all nature. Whoever took drew the property rights up originally for this island, they knew what they were doing, because off the coast of LA, I mean, to have something that beautiful just blew my mind. But there was a troop. I went hiking in Blackjack Campground, which is like 3.5 hour hike from Avalon. I took the ferry across, and but this Boy Scout troop, I'm sure you could read about it. You could Google it. They had every shape of UFO, UAP. It was like fireworks all night long. But like the cube that I had told you about, like definitive geometric shapes, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind experience. These kids had there was like 50 of them, and then with their troop guides, or whatever you call them.
Imagine all those kids in the middle of the Catalina Island with all that activity, which is already known. Imagine what they're not going to see. Maybe they went there for that, and they called them out and they said, "Hey, it's showtime." It could also be that the veil is falling and it's easier for us to see what always was. And that's also a very concerning. They're coming here and trying to give us a message. Why? What is it about this time to where they're appearing with more frequency than before? What is the message they're trying to tell us? What are the messages that civilizations have been trying to tell us for thousands of years? What is the message that the controllers are trying to hide from us? Those are, they're there for a reason. It's like we're here for a reason. Each one of us has a destiny that we were born to fulfill. And everything that happens around us is there for a reason. We just need to find out what that is. And it's extremely interesting, your take, because the description that we had before this and everything else, it's a sequential line of progression. The types of interactions that you had with those other dimensionalities ended up improving with your improvement in life perspective. The raising of your consciousness changed the individuals with whom you were convening in the material and in the immaterial. Okay, so where your thoughts were at is what you were wanting to converse with, and you attract that to you. And so when your thoughts went to saving your daughter and getting her out of that really messed up and bizarre situation, and wanting to get out of it yourself, and wanting to looking to future things and better things, and then things that involve love, because you were protecting those you love, and you were looking for the betterment. You weren't looking for vengeance or retribution or getting your own or something else. It wasn't an ego trip or a personal power trip. You're doing it out of love and protection and finding a more stable and balanced environment to continue to grow. And in that resonance, you're going to have all kinds of little stepping stones coming out in front of you, because that's the direction you should be going in. And you've got lots of helpers to help you that route, because they want you to continue on that route. The other ones want to pull you off the path, because that's the reason they drew you on that path, so you can just disappear in the middle of the muck. And it's really easy to get gone on those other paths. And if you have seen the strength of the adversaries that are willing to pull people off the path. We didn't go into detail on those aspects, but that also ties in more or less the hyperdimensional interacting with the three-dimensional, and the timing that we have of things going on now. It's all an interesting flux and conjunction of things that are happening now. It's really bizarre time to be alive. And your stories add a lot more detail to some of that strangeness as well. So I enjoy listening to them. Keep going. Sorry, I interrupted again.
No, it's great to hear your perspective.
That's what Mr. Peña offers, is his perspective. He's all about the Peña perspective.
Well, that's all, that's all we can. I mean, this is like, for this little mind, that's all I can offer is my perspective, Oh
yeah, and that's what we're looking for. Your experiences, your perspective on things, and what you've gone through, because nobody else watching this knows what you've gone through better than you. So who better to tell that story?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your story can help and inspire others as well. Because remember, we make change within ourselves, and we can't change other people. We can't change the wave around us. We can't change the ocean, but we can influence those around us. If you're swimming out in the middle of the ocean, you take a piss in the ocean, the water around you gets a lot warmer, but the people around you get a lot further away. So you affect your environment and the things around you and what you interact with. And so your stories come out and can be influential and can help other people find perspective. Yeah, I remember that. No, that explains it. Well, that's cool. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah. Thank you. I guess, my perspective would be, when you mention attraction, if if you're shrouded in negative life experiences, and there's a darkness around you, and then at the same time you're going through, I guess another way to put it is not all spiritual awakenings are fluffy. Some people go through the dark to get to the light, right?
And most alcoholics will tell you they have to hit the bottom of the well before they actually wake up.
This is true. This is very true. And it's a lot like, I guess for anyone listening, if you're having experiences of the negative kind, which has not been the case for me for the past few years.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But it got super bad, super dark, and supernaturally so. And I guess what I would say is much like in recovery from alcoholism or drug addiction or a host of other things, there's a sleight of hand involved there, where it'll make you those experiences came from so many different angles that I was shell shocked, and I didn't know how to combat it until I tackled it, much like recovery from alcoholism or drug addiction, with a spiritual solution, because it was way bigger and badder than I was. And when I did that, that's when the magic happened, and that's when all of that stuff slowly but surely went away. And that leads me to my next point. I was going to say, if you're having these types of things experience, and they didn't start off in a mixed bag of mostly dark with some good, then you're in a good spot. And to keep a sense of humor, in this, if you're already in the light, and to enjoy it and to embrace it and have fun with it. And that's where I'm at now. It certainly wasn't the case, and only the God of my understanding brought me to that place. And there's a lot of people lost, man, that are dealing with powers that we've spoken about, that have no idea how to get out of it. And I don't think these types of things happen for some messed up way for you to have to take a knee. I just know that taking a knee and asking for help was the only solution, and it worked. It absolutely worked. And
what happens when you take a knee? What did you have to decide before you took a knee? You mentioned it yourself. You mentioned it yourself.
Yeah.
It was something bigger than you. You can't defeat it. You need help to be able to deal with it. And the one who's bigger than all, the creator of all, is always willing to help us when we ask him in good faith. We're trying to work in love. We're trying to work in goodness. He will put the steps in front of us so that we can achieve what he wants us to achieve, which is he wants us to come home. It's the story of the prodigal son. The kid takes half his inheritance, says, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he goes and he blows it. And then later on, he's, living in a pigsty. And he comes back, all humble and look, I'll work with the servants of my dad's place. Right? His dad has a feast whenever his kid comes back home. But did he give him the feast when he was out in the middle of the city, living his life and doing what he wanted with his own inheritance? No, he gave him the feast when he came back home. The Father wants us home. Well, when we go there, he raises the path to make our journey to him that much quicker and easier. Life gets difficult when we take it on our own shoulders to do everything, because we can't.
Very well said.
It's like this. I would not be able to even be here if it weren't for Jake. You know, the things that Jacob has done, and to be able to bring this together, and the discipline that he has, and the contacts and the go-getiveness that he has as an entrepreneur and everything else, is what's making this happen. You know, and him applying himself and learning new software every week to try and to make things better and make things fly. Because in the beginning, it was a bit rough, wasn't it, Jake?
Yeah, it was quite the disaster.
Technically, we're still in the beginning. I mean, this is like episode 8 or something like that. We're still in the beginning.
Let's put it this way: there's probably at least 6 hours of missing footage that will never be seen.
Well, kudos to you.
Well, yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on and everything, John. And yeah, the floor is yours. I got a couple other photos I was looking at that. Sure. You didn't send me to them. I didn't know you had gone to Joshua Tree.
Yeah, and let me just bounce off of that. You know, all these experiences, all these pictures that I'm going to be talking about that you guys are showing and putting up there, all of that was helping and guiding, and like I said, bringing me to a higher vibration so I could get away from that darkness I was in. So all this stuff is all good. But yeah, let's see what you got.
Well, let's see what you got. Hold on, let me see what it is.
What you gave us.
What was that?
See what he's got, what he gave us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all influences.
Let's see here. I believe this is the image of you at Joshua Tree.
Yeah, you do have that. Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's where I was. I was there for like another 7 hours, maybe, on top of that that cliff. However, I've gone so far off of the beaten path that it's I can't believe I found my way out of there, man, in the middle of the night. I hit a couple lucky goat trails and then found the correct path back to the car, but I almost spent the night. I was looking at my water. Yeah, I got a little nervous walking out of there. Because of that reason, I started to get lost. I couldn't find the path.
Oh, I bet it gets dark out there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The stories they got about Joshua Tree and the amount of rescues that they have to do out there. That's California's a crazy place sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's another one I wanted you to tell me a little bit about. That
you were out there in Joshua Tree by yourself again, unaccompanied, just out there.
Yeah. Well, you know, remember that. I had that experience with those messages being flashed on the radio, and one of them was no phone, no police, federal land. I know how bizarre that sounds. It was kind of you know, this is after I'd gone through all the dark, and I wanted to like almost like, I don't know, face your light. Yeah, I don't know if it was like face my fear. It was just like, I'm not scared of any of this anymore. It was that I know whatever's interacting with me's got my back, and I'm going out there, you know, and that was that.
That's a beautiful photo. Where did you take that one at?
That was down at the lake. That's a beautiful photo. However,
is that the sun?
No,
that's the sun with the corona.
That is the moon. However, that is a what could be an airplane, and what I'm trying to get at is some real wild things can happen with illusion. And you mentioned, you know, how we've been interacting with this domain, the angelic and everything, for thousands of years. however long we've been on this planet, and a lot of it is spoken to us. I think through symbology, through symbols. So some of this that I'm encountering may have been shown up in people of the past in different ways than it's being shown to me now. And so I've seen, like, I'll give you an example of a symbol, right? So my ex-wife and I were outside, and I think I spoke about this earlier at night, and about 700 or 800 feet above us comes a completely silent, no engine, no jet going, and you should be able to hear a really loud jet at that altitude. 747, right over our heads, slow, no noise, and breaks into two and starts off at one single point in the sky and goes from a silent, pitch perfect V away from each other. Now, this scared her so bad, she ran into the house.
Did it become two 747s, or did the 747 split in half?
It became two. It was one flying, and then it split off from each other and went away from each other.
Both of them were two 747s flying.
They were one. There was one 747.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, in the end, it wasn't like a half of 47 and a half of.
Right. No, they're full on.
They were complete. In other words, one became two complete planes.
Two from one single point in the sky right above us. And when I say, so when you have two full 747s, no more than 100 feet away from each other, like this now, that's the net. That's like, so one and then boom, right? So already there's not one on some weird thing. It's like that, completely the same speed, right? Slow with no noise. And this is where it comes back to symbols.
How did Transformers figure it out? They came in, they transformed themselves into the machines that we were used to seeing. I mean, Bumblebee even went from an old fucking Camaro to a new Camaro because his owner said, "Well, you beat up, he can do anything he wants. Just copy what we want to see." And people have said that too. Maybe the UFOs that they saw in the past were more reticent to the technologies that they were willing to recognize as something. Or maybe it's also cloaking. The best way to cloak is to cloak in the time period in which you're in.
But this is where I'm gonna say that. So let me say this: if they were neighbors out on their porch, there's a good chance they wouldn't have even seen that. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think it was more of a message being delivered to me and my ex. Consciously, we saw this, and subconsciously, this is my perspective on it, was we were going our own way. And we started as one, and it was time for us to go away from each other. And that's how I looked at it. But this picture right here, this was at a place at the Ethan Allen Tower, actually at the Pinnacle. It's a place where I go. This was in the winter, so I'll lie down in the snow up there. It's very little light pollution. The very first night, so this is just some of the classic. These were going to, both of these were going towards each other.
Okay, because it doesn't seem that dark. It doesn't seem like it was. It seemed like there was still some light in the sky.
Yeah, no, it was dark. I don't know which phone I took that off of. If that was the iPhone 11, which will make shots look lighter than they are, or how I took that particular one. But this is the same spot where I saw the semi-cloaked triangle, followed 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes away by the. So the triangle. Well, I'll get to it. But the triangle and the boomerang butterfly looking one with all these little starlights all over the wings. But that place is magical. that's where,
there.
yeah, it's just it's, you know what, when this falls into your lap, you could be, I think anywhere, like, and it's not about summoning. It's like you get opened up to it, and then it just is. So you'll witness it no matter where you're at. You don't have to do some rigid protocol or like be in a specific spot. Sure, you want to be somewhere where you can see the night sky with low light pollution, but a lot of people try to sell. They make this into kind of a business. You could buy this app where you can learn how to do this. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm down. I think it's great to promote it, but to put a price tag on this is just wrong. This is just this is free, man. And
yeah, it seems like information everybody should have. You shouldn't have to charge to get this knowledge, but everybody knows knowledge is power. So if they can charge you to get that power, they're going to try to.
Some people, I suppose, I don't know, but yeah, that space is I've had some really wild experiences up there. The first night I went up there when I moved back from California. So I'm up there and I'm seeing all these things, man. I'm like, I want to get some night vision and let me get a tripod and that's when I formed the group, because until I started getting witnesses, from my ex to friends I've worked with, like the one that I told you was sparkling in broad daylight in California, that's when I knew that this isn't just in my head, right? Like other people, I'm like, oh, this is great. They're seeing this too. Like, thank God, and I've been lucky enough to talk with I've got some, like I said, friends that have their experiences blow mine away. I don't know if you guys have ever. I suggest you watch anything about Christopher Bledsoe Sr., the Fayette incident in North Carolina, but his experiences are just. I talk to him occasionally, and he's the one that's really grounded me with a lot of this. So I'm grateful for him, but his experiences are just phenomenal, and he's sparked a lot of interest with our government because of it. And but I really suggest you look up and listen to any of his experiences. They're just unbelievable. But and his opinion as well is that this is angelic in nature. So where was I going to this? The first night I went up there, I'm getting set up. I went to some public place where you can you just fill out some paperwork, you join. It's like a public they do public television, and they'll let you take out cameras and stuff like that. So I took out a night vision camera. I'm getting set up, and this guy comes out of nowhere. It's getting towards twilight, and it's the very first night, and he comes up to me, and he just starts talking. Nice enough guy, but he just starts talking to, and he's dressed well, he's talking well, and he's picking up trash, putting it in a bag. Good guy. And he starts talking about the Knights Templar, and then he starts kind of being suggestive that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And then he points to a spot about 25 yards away, and he's like, "That's where I died." Right? So I'm already like, and then he looks
You're
at me.
watching the dead. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, he looks at me and he cocks his head and he goes, "But I'm very much alive." And he puts out his hand. So then I shake his hand, I'm like, this is flesh, and I'm talking to this guy. And it was just, there's a lot of high weird things that happen. You mentioned about things materializing. I think I've had change. I've had 3 times this happened. Quarters have materialized in thin air and just dropped out of nowhere. So just right in front of my face, in a quarter. But that gets back to when I went back in time, those 10 seconds. I was standing in California. It was just my father. I was at my sister's house. Her family was gone. He was dying of leukemia, and he was out in California to get treatment. And I was still out there at this time. And I remember I slept in my nephew's bed, and some change from sleeping had been left on the bed from that fell out of my pocket. I think I was tired from work. I had worked a trade show that day, and a little coupon that showed that I'm an electrician and did a lot of car shows and trade shows in the Anaheim Convention Center. And so I had my ticket to park. So I scoop up the change, I pick up the ticket, I put it in my pocket, and then I walk into the living room. I say hello to my father, and he's watching some show, and he's like, "Hey, how'd you sleep?" And then this weird noise. I hear this like this, and I get this rushing sound, and then I'm back in the room where I just was. I'm not lying on the bed, but I'm facing the bed with the change and the little car parking ticket I had from work. So I'm shocked. I stay there for like 5 seconds. I pick up the change again, and I bend down and I look, and my eyes met. My nephew had a what do you call it? A globe, like you could spin the earth so the kid can look at geography, right? So it was an interesting correlation, change in the world, right? Like the world's going through changes. You're changing, this whole thing. And then I walk back into the room, and there's my father's like, "Hey, how'd you sleep?" And I had the exact same conversation I just had with him, but it was physical. It was absolutely physical. It wasn't like, oh, I just woke up and dreamt this or whatever. I was totally awake.
But it wasn't the second time that your father had seen you. It was like it had never happened at all.
It had never happened before to him. And during this period, this 2 to 3 week period, time, oh my gosh, this spun me out like nothing. Well, a lot of things were spinning me out, but all the noises, I'd be in the backyard and all the noises would stop. I'm talking the birds would stop chirping, the construction going on next door would just stop. There would be nothing. And then all of a sudden, it would click back on and everything's going again. Then it would stop. And this was just like, it was relentless. The same thing would happen with
fucking with your mind, buddy.
Yeah. Well, there was something.
You think this is real?
Yeah, man. During this same time frame, I look up at the sky. I wish I had pictures of this. There's a crescent moon, okay, which would be so it was to the right, so it'd be in the northern part of the sky, full on crescent moon, right? And I'm just so just dealing with so much. I'd been through the ringer, and thank God I had that angelic encounter a few days before this, and then all those UFOs. But there's the crescent moons in the right-hand corner of the sky, my daughter's head. 5 minutes later is a full moon now to the left. The crescent moon's gone, and I'm looking at a full moon in the sky. So all these things, whether in my view, were clearly ordained by something way above my pay grade, but it was just experiences that I think that are natural, and they served me well, like I needed an ass kicking. Like I needed to know, like, dude, you are not in control. Okay. And I'm going to show you how
you are in control of you. You control you.
This is not John's universe. Right. Yeah.
How we influence others is the reason why we're here. because we have control and dominion over ourselves. Everybody else has control and dominion over themselves, but everyone is influenced by something or another. And the people that we interact with are the people that we are able to influence. Sometimes we don't. Don't you have that friend that is always talking about stupid bullshit and, is always drunk and everything else? So he'll tell you something, but you won't take it with a grain of salt. Hey, why don't we go jump off the cliff? Yeah, go ahead. You do that. Go have fun. Those type of people are going to influence you not that much, but there's that friend that all of a sudden, whenever you've got problems and you call him and he goes, yeah, I'll be there. I'll help you out. That person has a lot more influence on you. So the way that we're able to influence others is how we benefit their lives. We can also have negative influences. I mean, you go up to the cash register and you're in a bad mood and you transfer your bad mood onto her because she was, 30 seconds too slow and swiping all your garbage. All of a sudden we can make what was already a bad day for her even worse. Or we can take a pause, understand that it's at the end of a very long day. She's yawning, her hair is a mess because she hasn't looked at it in 5 hours at least, right? And you just smile and say, you doing good? All of a sudden, that can break an entire bad day for her and go, today was another shitty day. But at the end, there's this customer that, it's nice to know that people like that still exist. So we can influence people's lives just in our interactions with them. And that's why we're here, is to measure those interactions and to find out who we are and what we're capable of, the good that we're capable of doing for others. In fact, that's kind of obligatory. It's mandatory in our existence because we're supposed to be able to help others. It's not about us. It's not John's universe. It's not Mike's universe. It's not Jake's universe. Well, each one of us is responsible for our own universe. I'm sitting in the middle of mine. You're sitting in the middle of yours, and Jake's in the middle of his universe. But all those universes interact with others. And that conjunction, that working together, that synchronicity, that everyone focusing on the same goal is what ends up being the influence that we want to be able to propagate on the planet. That's the influence that makes things better, that makes life easier, that makes it enjoyable experiences versus, oh shit, I gotta do that again. Can I have like a 50-year vacation? No, that's not why we want to live life. We want to live life and actually enjoy it. And the way that we enjoy it is helping others enjoy theirs.
So true.
Yeah. But mine's a boring speech. This is a lot more interesting. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, like I said, I like when you get to give your perspective on what we're talking about. It really helps dial in the conversation, and I can tell John's gotten something from it as well. Getting to talk to you every once in a while as well.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, it's like minds.
Yeah, we all develop the synchronicity, and kind of like Newton's law of thermodynamics. Waters that can be different temperatures, they have a tendency to equal their temperature, right? So we all rub off on each other, and we all influence each other in a way that will eventually be more or less in the same dimension. Why? Because we're pushed and energized by an energy of love, compassion, and just being good, decent people. That doesn't come naturally. No, I mean, I've got lots of stuff. I mean, sure, whatever. I'm not going to go there. But what makes me a decent person isn't what I've got inside of me, because that's usually what makes me what people don't want to be around. What makes me a good person is because whenever I'm about to spew out that dragon breath of just hate, fire, and anger, all of a sudden I got somebody going, hey, remember, you're mine. Yes, sir. You're right. Hi, how you doing? Good morning. Is that a little bit better? Yeah, it's a lot better than what the fuck do you want with me? Get the fuck off. Damn it. I ain't got my coffee yet. They're different resonances. Do what, Jake?
I said it sounds like you've been to New York.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of places. Yeah, and that's the way it is, because they're focused on their thing. They're running, they're competing, and they're trying to do the most they can, and they're not even considering other human beings, much less.
It's not going to go over too well for you treating your fellow mankind like that, for sure.
It usually does, because people respect the fear and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of a really bizarre mentality. But I remember when I went to Boston and I was in Cambridge Square and that sort of thing, and I was all excited because you're walking next to Harvard and and the MIT campus and all that kind of stuff, and I'm from Texas and everything else, and so I'm walking down the street all happy and everything else. Morning, how you doing? They'd look like I was freaking crazy. They'd cross the streets like, who is this freaking nut job talking to me in the morning? What the hell's he got? He's gonna assault me or something. It was bizarre, but that's the way it is. But New York ain't got nothing on Philadelphia. Holy cow. Cops in Chicago airport. Yeah, those were a lot of fun too. Yeah, we've all got our stresses. And see, that's our internal, that's our me. And that don't work, because we're all stepping on each other. What works is when he tells us, hey, stop being you, start being more like me. Yes, sir. All right. How can I help you, ma'am? Did you find everything you needed? It doesn't come naturally to be a kind and decent human being. It comes naturally to beat the crap out of somebody and make ourselves feel better, or at least to me. So maybe I'm just screwed in the head. Anyway,
I think more than anything, Michael, like that is just learned over time too. Like when I was younger, it was a patience thing. I didn't have the patience for people or the rest of the world until I got a little bit older, and I realized I didn't have to be the first one to get ththings done. I didn't have to be the first one to finish things. I would just take my time, get through it, watched everybody else in their rush, and putting that extra stress on themselves. And once I was able to separate myself from that extra stress, then I was like, oh, this doesn't have to be as hard as everybody wants it to be. I mean,
who are you competing against? You're competing against yourself. Okay. For example, Jake, you're not going to be Joe Rogan tomorrow, but you're well on your way. See what I'm saying?
I appreciate it. I don't ever see myself getting to that status, but it's a good goal to set.
Exactly. And there's a path that's been trailed that you can follow. You're going to create your own. Why? Because you're Jacob Waters. You've got your path. However, why do we have to create everything new when lots of successful people have been doing it? The problem is whenever we start schooling ourselves off of successful people that have become successful by abusing others and that sort of thing. For example, at one point I wanted to be Bill Gates. Why? Because everybody uses Windows operating system. But nowadays, hell no, I wouldn't want to be that psychophant. I mean, he's a twisted freaking sicko. There ain't no way that no matter how many billions I had, it'd be worth being that.
I muted you for a second. You're talking about Bill Gates on YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll unmute you. But we don't have any perspective on Bill Gates.
Yeah, but I was going to go on to Bezos and say that he was worse. What has Amazon done to small business? At the same time, what has Walmart done to small business? I remember in Guthrie, Oklahoma, when everybody was excited when the first Walmart showed up. Yeah, it was great. We could finally get stuff that we didn't have before, and we didn't have to go to the big city to find it. But all those little shops and the Dollar General and all that kind of stuff that actually sold you the stuff, and you helped support different families and everybody existed. Now, all of a sudden, it all goes to profit margins of people that are paying lower than minimum wage because their people can live off welfare. You're working 8 hours a day, but you still got to pull in welfare to put food on the table or pay rent. That's not what was there before. Yeah, we have cheaper prices. We can buy more garbage. Okay, we've got a wider variety of garbage to choose from. But there's less people to share it with, and there's less people to talk to because they all moved out, and they're, instead of in a house, they're living in an apartment in a big city, all depressed because, Well, whatever they had is gone because Walmart moved into town.
Yeah. Well, and that's my biggest problem with unions as well, because I think as much as unions also have their benefits, they also can strangle out small business. I mean, that's one of the things that they have the advantage to do. If they're only taking people because they're union, and everybody else that would be filling in would be a scab or anything like that, like the practices in Illinois get a little wild with unions. What's that?
That's something. For example, in Texas, we don't have that many. In Mexico, yeah, right, yeah, they exist, but anyway, whenever we'd go to trade shows, everywhere else, we'd grab the plants and we'd grab the chairs and we'd grab the tables, we'd grab it out of the truck and we go hauling our butt through all the floors and everything else to finally get to our stand, and we set it up and everything else. We get to Chicago because we had lots of shows that we did in Chicago. Freaking McCormick Center's huge, beautiful structure. Anyway, we start getting the stuff out of the truck. And hey, you can't do that here. What do you mean? It's my truck. Yeah, but you can't do what you're doing. Yeah, I'm grabbing my stuff. Yeah, but you can't do that here. I'm taking it to my stand. My truck, my stuff, my stand.
I gotta laugh, guys, because I know what you're talking about. I'm a union guy, right?
You can't do that here. You can't carry your stuff here. Yeah. This is union area.
John knows
I waited for 4 hours for somebody to show up for us to do what we would have done in 20 minutes.
An extension cord down. It's my job.
Yeah. My job. And you can't just put the extension cord. You got to cover it up with that yellow and black tape along with the cardboard to make sure that nobody trips, nobody falls over.
Yeah, you can't tie into just anybody's extension cord. I agree with John. I've heard so many electricians get yelled at for plugging something of theirs into somebody else's extension cord, and it's a goddamn nightmare.
Well, you blow the voltage, man. I mean, if they're in series or in parallel, you've got either amperage or voltage going up, one or the two.
Yeah, but I'll just agree to disagree with you guys about unions. But
unions make your life better, but not everybody else's life better.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Unions are very beneficial for the people involved in them. Don't get me wrong.
But there's a difference. See, I understand the union perspective whenever you're talking about somebody who's willing to pay you less than survival wages or slave wages and everything else, and an individual doesn't have power because you can just fire your cheap ass and hire somebody else who's willing to do it for less. We've been doing that, shipping all our crap out to China. They're willing to do that. What happened was that was 150 years afterwards. The unions were developed in order to shorten our days from 12 hours to 8 hours, to shorten the week from 7 days to 6 days to 5 days, to now in France, 4.5 days a week, I guess.
I mean, unions were developed for a lot of good things.
They're the reason we don't have child labor anymore. They've done lots of good things. However, in Jimmy Hoffa will be an excellent image of this. They started to abuse their power after some time. They outlived their usefulness. They reduce productivity. They don't necessarily make people's lives better like they used to. Now they just charge you like taxes every fucking month. You got to pay out of your salary just to keep that guy, that he's not going to negotiate for you anyway because he's already having dinner with the owner of the company. So he's not on your side. He's just getting your money. That's the abuse of the system.
Let me re-clarify how I said it. So I have a problem with unions, but I have a problem with specific unions. So what you'll see in Illinois, and you'll also see it in California a lot, is unions have, and I don't know if it's protected under freedom of speech or how it's protected, but basically what they're allowed to do is say multiple companies put a bid on a job. Say they want to do the flooring in a building that's being built in a local town. The union will bring in their bid, which will be higher because, I mean, a union usually has more expenses, and then also they have more certifications than most businesses coming in. They are trained professionals.
Generate the expenses. It's a lot more expensive to have all those certifications.
Yeah, and so usually there will be lower bids than the union bid. And say you pick a lower bid that is not a union contractor, what they'll do in our area is they will come and they'll have somebody from the union who's acting like he's not from the union will come and put this giant inflatable rat outside of the building trying to act like because these guys didn't hire, basically they got outbidded by a job, and now they're to me it's defecation, or not, what is it called? Defecation of character? Is that the legal term for it?
Defamation.
Defamation of character. Yeah, I think that's what it borderlines on. I mean, people being upset. It's whiny to me. You're whining that you didn't get the job, and your rebuttal to that is, I'm going to act like this business is doing everybody a disservice by hiring a non-union worker. And I think
Hold on a second. That almost sounds like 2020 and 2021, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, I might not do what I wanted. I feel bad. I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna burn your city down.
And then the other main problem I have with unions are teachers' unions. I don't think teachers should be locked into a 10-year contract of any sort.
As a teacher, I like the tenure and the fact that I don't have to kiss somebody's butt every year just to continue having a job. However, whenever the teachers decide the parents shouldn't have a voice in their own children's education, then I think we've gone a bit too far.
And I've worked for construction unions my whole life. I have a different feeling towards construction unions. Like I told John earlier, I used to remodel houses. That's what I did on all along Lake Michigan, like $2 million plus houses.
We'd go in. That's what my dad did, and I helped him. So yeah, it's a fun day.
I've worked with unions my whole life, but there's only specific ones that I actually have a problem with, and it's the ones that want to throw mud and be mudslingers. Most unions, they know that they're in a different bracket. Like most of the time, it's a perspective for me. It's like most unions aren't going to go out of their way and burn ants because they're not bidding the same jobs. Like they're not holding a magnifying glass trying to get rid of the small business on the corner. Most unions realize they're not in the same bracket. So if you have a perspective as a union that you have to get all of these small guys out of the way, then I think that's the wrong way to gear your union. You should just be like, oh, we're the best workers. This is our price. You get what you pay for.
That's a corporation, not a union. There you're getting things confused. A union doesn't need to be doing nothing about bidding or anything else. The union is there to represent the workers. Now, the company will bid. Now, if it's a unionized company or non-unionized company, that's a whole nother story. If the client buying the services says, no, but that's not a unionized company, I can't accept their service or whatever, that's another extension of that. Okay, now the union themselves going out, you didn't hire our workers. Now that's intimidation, and that's gang tactics, and that goes beyond what they were contracted to do. They're supposed to negotiate with the boss so that the worker don't get screwed. Now, at the same time, if they negotiate too damn well, the boss gets screwed, which he'll never get screwed. He'll always pass on the price to the end customer. And sometimes the customer has lots of options, and so he's not going to do what the boss, says that has to be done because the union told him it had to. And that's how you get places like Texas where we don't have unions. But then you get to places like Mexico or here in Brazil, it's where those unions don't do their thing and people do whatever it is that they feel like they're going to do. Because, in order to get union work, you have to do things right as well. So if you do put an extension cord, you're not going to just plug it in here and put 20 different things in there. You're unionized and you know what you're supposed to be doing supposedly in order to protect the entire freaking union. So you're going to put that extension cord down. You're going to put the blocks over the top, and you're going to put the tape there to make sure that nothing happens to you or the union to help get you hired. So those were eventually the benefits that were supposed to come of it. Not, we're going to dumb it. Yeah. Otherwise, I talk forever.
I can tell. John has an input on this union talk. We won't take it into politics, but I know you can talk about unions without.
I'll just. I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm just going to say I'm a union guy. That's how.
There's nothing wrong with being a union guy. That's not what I'm. Yeah, that's not
the union's been really good to me. Good. In the state of Vermont, my union, the IBEW, only has about 8%, maybe 10% today of the market share. So we're actually I think we're the second, unless you work for yourself, which I'm presently doing. as a signatory contractor, we're the second lowest paid local in the whole U.S. Our local, so we're not on the margin of difference for the benefit of being being a union guy doing what I do here is not much difference for being non-union as far as what you're making in an hourly rate. You are getting more towards a pension and probably better health, but your hourly rate is it's not much better.
You still have to be competitive.
Yeah.
Right. But that being said, they opened up the window for me to be able to, if I was willing to travel to try to better my position in life, I was able to do that. So, that's how I was able to work in Southern California. Those locals welcomed me with open arms, so the union's been really, really good to me, and much of what Mike was saying earlier. Both of you guys have good pro union points that you've made, and I'll just leave it at that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. My father has been union for over 30 years. I also joined his union at one point. He's in the Glazers union, so just glass, shower doors, mirrors, stuff like that. And for me, the union, there was just too much politics in it. I watched them send my dad a letter every year about who to vote for. They were like, "Oh, the union's putting their power. We just want to give you advice on how you're supposed to do it." I just thought that was always goofy. I'm like, I just really don't feel like that's something like you're paying these guys money. It's a pyramid scheme, but they definitely take care of people involved in it, and that's why I can't knock the unions in the sense that I wouldn't be where I'm at today without my dad having a union job and us being able to support ourselves because of his wage. My mom didn't have to work because my dad had a good union wage, and I can't knock it at all. So it definitely benefits a lot of people, and it definitely helps a lot of situations. But then I've just seen it get abused, and those are the parts that bug me about it.
But everything gets abused, and that's the thing. We've got to get past the abusive mentality. But people don't necessarily get into power if they're not abusive, because that's how they bullied their way into power. Unfortunately, but then again, that's just my perspective. It's kind of skewed. It's obviously plenty skewed. But then again, I'm not in the north of the U.S. I mean, yeah, everything. Ohio was also heavy union and everything else. And that's it's necessary. And it was necessary for a very, very long time. The problem is like lawmakers. If you're in government, well, what's your job? Your job is to make laws. All right. So who's got a complaint? We're going to make a law against that. So that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do when things are bad enough. But complaint after complaint, you start writing laws. Now all of a sudden, you can't fart sideways without somebody writing you a ticket. There comes a point to where you have to say, okay, where's the basis to where we've improved the lives of the people that are working with us, which is the ultimate objective, but we're also helping to make our companies more competitive, to make the environments and where we're at, either the social environment or the actual environment. For example, some of the things that they do with the corporate unions they have down here is they set up like a tennis courts or soccer fields or gyms or something else to where people that work in the company can actually go there, take their kids there. And there's a park here close by because of Embraco, which I don't work in Embraco, but I live about 2 miles away from it. So as part of the community, I also have access to that. And they've got jungle gyms and basketball courts and volleyball courts and tennis courts and a big soccer field to where you can also play football if you want to and that sort of stuff. And it's just this big, nice park that normally the municipal parks here aren't anywhere that nice. Now, that comes from the union dues. What do you do with the extra money left over? Well, the union president doesn't pocket the change. they put it into things that they invest for the workers, which are, end of year parties or the basketball or, soccer ranges or whatever it is that people really need.
It's good that there's some companies that do that. You don't like to see the companies where the CEO sitting on the top is making all of the, all the profit and pocketing the difference. You like to see it when it's, replenished.
Everybody grows along with the company because everybody helped the company grow.
Yeah.
It's the way it should be. But bean counters are bean counters. You know what I'm saying?
So John, we've talked about a couple of different experiences that you had. Is that time travel one where you had that spot where the globe was next to you and you're picking up that coin, the only one that you had? Because the second you said that to me, I was like, all right, does he still have the coin? And what was the year on the coin? Like, I had 100 questions as soon as you said it. And then,
did the coin make a difference?
And I wanted to put my hand in the air and shake my fist and say, God damn you, Andrew Basciago, because his dad, they used to do an experiment where they were sending coins back in time and sending them through portals and stuff like this. And I always wonder if anybody ever turned up on these coins or if.
Well, imagine if Andrew's dad's experiments expected John. Holy cow. Now that would be a trip.
That would be a trip. Did you ever have any other ones, or was that kind of the main one?
It happened 3 different times. I do have them somewhere. I can't specifically remember the date on them. One was actually a nickel. The other 2 were quarters. I think the message clearly was to me was change,
global change.
Change your ways. But they're called aports when that happens and things materialize and come into existence or into this dimension. And some people, I've got a friend who interviewed a guy who was a friend of his who, this guy's got a collection of like jewelry. I think a dagger materialized in thin air one time, and this is by a guy that is a pro. This guy started this. It's a consciousness organization, studying consciousness and all the phenomena from outer body experiences to angelic experiences to UFOs to time traveling to remote viewing, all of it, putting it all the paranormal into one umbrella titled consciousness. And he started this with Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo astronaut, now, the late Edgar Mitchell. But super smart guy, and some of the experiences my friend Ray's had. He was actually the first guy I spoke to in regards to all of this. I don't even know how I found him. The universe hooked it up, and we spoke on the phone. And he as well as Chris Bledsoe have been instrumental in just normalizing, helping normalize and validate some of the weirder aspects of everything, and not just the weirder aspects, just all of it. They've been grounding, if you will.
Was it Ray Hernandez?
Yeah. Yep. You know Ray?
I don't personally know Ray, but I know a little bit about Edgar Mitchell, and I have heard that. Let me pull something up to give a little bit of reference here for you while you're talking about it.
Fantastic guy.
How did you meet Ray?
I somehow it's like maybe almost 3 years ago, I came across his information I don't even know how. Like I said, I found him, but I did, and he's done some very in-depth studies regarding this phenomena, especially UFO and ET experiencers and angelic experiencers, and oh gosh, huge, like the world's most renowned case study he's done. Let me pull it up here. It's called The Greater Reality, and then also Beyond UFOs.
Okay.
The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligences, Volume 1. And it's an 820-page book, research on more than 4,200 UFO contact experiencers from over 100 countries. The data from our book contradicts much of what is circulating in ufology. It's a fabulous read. This guy's very, very much in the know when it comes to this. He's probably, the most leading expert. When I say expert,
if you can, John. Hey, John, if you can, go ahead and send me the link, and I'll pull it up so that people can see the book.
Yeah.
You should be able to send it to me through
Facebook.
Yeah,
he's been a terrific, absolutely terrific. Should I just share it on my page or send it to you? And
just send it to me through a message, and then I'll be able to share it for us. But no, it sounds like he's got. I mean, anybody working with Edgar Mitchell has a lot more pull with the audience. I feel like, I mean, when you get that kind of credibility with you.
Yeah, no, this guy's legit. The guy, this book, Lou Elizondo, who the guy who was running the ATIP program, you can see when he's got a picture of him on his desk when he's running the ATIP program out of the Pentagon, and he has Ray Hernandez's book on this book I just sent you on his desk. And this is, from what I've been told, these guys in the know, this is more along the lines of they have an understanding that much of this is angelic, magical, celestial in nature, and not so much nuts and bolts as we're led to believe.
And we are definitely not alone.
No, we are not.
Here, I'll pull that up.
Yes.
So, Reno Hernandez, and this is a copy of the books.
Those are the ones. Great read. And, the majority of those experiencers had positive transformations from their encounters. There's a lot of medical healings that have been involved in people's encounters, and the majority of people's experiences are actually positive. Something, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's upwards of 80%, like if you were to ballpark it, maybe even higher than that.
Why do we have so much bad publicity on it?
Fear sells, man. Fear sells. And some people's experiences started, scary, terrifying, like mine, and then drifted into they were able to shift out of that. And but most people, did not have to deal with that aspect of it to begin with. But there's some phenomenal testimonies in there, and then those books, they ask all the experiencers these questions from around the world in all these different languages, all these 100 different countries. I highly suggest it. I'm doing a real piss poor job of explaining it. But he's he is like I said, he was a pillar in helping ground me when I first spoke with him. He was like, man, he's like, dude, what you went through and what you're experiencing is perfectly normal. He's like, in many cultures they would call it a shamanic awakening, and it was really, really beneficial to hear that, especially at the time.
But it's kind of like that. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention it's like that old battle between Plato and Aristotle, to where Aristotle saw that, the inventor of the basic elements, right? Earth, water, wind, and earth. That what we saw is what was, and Plato thought that what we believed in our consciousness created the reality that we were in. And so those were two varying perspectives, and that was 5,000 years ago. It looks like Aristotle won because that's what Newton was working on, and that's exactly why Einstein didn't understand when Niels Bohr was telling him, look, there's more here than what we think it is. What we call spooky action at a distance. We got that phrase from Einstein himself because entanglement, what they saw in the experiments didn't mesh with what he mathematically had conjectured from the reality that Newton had described to us so well a long time ago, because there's more to this than what we can measure and see. There's more that's making it happen. And we're finally reaching a point to where we can understand that multidimensionality. To where, there's a lot more than just us and what we knock around. And we also have a larger effect on the universal energy and the consciousness. I mean, as a society where I'm hoping we're starting to wake up. I mean, there are lots of people that call themselves woke that are tremendously asleep because they're doing more harm to anybody else than anything else. They're concerned on their own justifications instead of simply benefiting others. Shut up and benefit others, period. You suffer in silence, kind of, and then you extend your hand to others to help them up. That consciousness and that awakening allows us to find a way that is much more sustainable. For example, your life with your daughter, is it better now or was it better back then? How is she emotionally?
Exactly. She's doing great. She's doing great, man. In fact, I've got like 2 minutes because I got to get to her.
Hey, John, I wanted to ask you before you go. Do you know the author Peter Moon?
I've heard of Peter Moon. Man, yeah. Let me look at that.
Well, the reason I'm asking, he's a pretty significant author in the UFO community, and he's going to be a guest on the show in mid-August. He's going to be.
Hey, that's news to me.
Yeah. Coming soon.
Awesome.
I tell you, Jake is up and going. Jake's doing wonderful.
Well, just to give you guys an example. Okay,
did he write sci-fi novels?
Yeah.
That Peter Moon. Okay.
Yeah, he's got quite a few novels. He's probably got eight or nine plus novels.
The Montauk Project.
Ooh.
He's definitely got some good information out there. I got him coming in August. I believe next week I'm gonna have somebody giving me my first tarot reading via the internet. It's a lady who is I believe she says she's a practicing witch. I don't know if she classifies herself as Wiccan or what, but we have a couple interesting guests with a lot of different perspectives coming up, and should be interesting to get their take. But yeah, I was going to tell you to definitely tune into the Peter Moon episode, because if you like that Ray guy, I could definitely see you finding some correlations in a lot of Peter Moon's writing as well.
I could tell just by the titles. They look very interesting for sure.
But yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and we won't tie you up anymore. We'll probably end up doing.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. you guys have a good weekend.
Oh yeah, you as well. I have a feeling we'll have you on again soon, and we'll get to talk a little bit more about some of your experiences and whatever else you want to, talk about. We'll try to stay away from unions. I don't want to get
union bashing.
Yeah.
No. I'll be quiet. I'll be quiet.
I'm just playing. All right, bye guys.
Yep. Have a good night,
John. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Cool, Jake. So if you want, we can continue our regularly scheduled Michael Pennell program, or what do you feel like doing? I didn't know how much time you had. I know it's getting late over there. We had kind of a late broadcast tonight.
No, that's it was late. I was doing stuff like I told you. I was auditing the church's books. So, right now it's midnight here in Brazil, but I'm always up for a good conversation. However, John's conversation, I think, was a good point to focus today's episode. I don't know what we can necessarily add to that. We can add to it later on, but John's good for today, definitely. Unless, of course, there's something that you want to add that might get us banned off YouTube from the very beginning, considering we're live, right? We're not going to talk about
why don't we end John's broadcast, and then if you want, maybe I'll get a hold of you online, and maybe we'll do another after hours if you're up for it.
We'll do an after hours. Definitely. I'm always up for it. Thanks, Jake. I appreciate the invite always.
Yep. Thanks, Michael.